So, over the years in the MCU, there's been many powerful weapons that we have seen, but which are the five most powerful in the MCU? In today's video, we're going to be talking about what are the five most powerful weapons, like, stones. That's kind of spoiled something already. But what are the most powerful weapons we have seen in the MCU, and how much destruction can they cause, and their wielders, and who wields them. So, if you do enjoy this video, please like, subscribe. Obviously, this is a new channel. Go check out our TikTok and Instagram. It's Marvel Central. It's literally just the same. I'll put in the description. And yeah, this is a new channel. So, if you recognise, I am from the Nerd Guys, but I have made this Marvel Central page. But let's get over that and get on with the video of the most powerful weapons. So, number 5 is obviously something that's been in the MCU for many years now, since the beginning, and it is Mjolnir. Obviously, Thor's first hammer, very iconic. It's a very powerful weapon in the MCU. Obviously, can only be picked up, obviously, owns to the worthy one, which is obviously Thor. It is made from a very strong material called Uru. It's a dark elf material. It's one of the most strongest materials and metals in the MCU. As we know, vibranium is one of the strongest in the MCU as well, with many other materials being very strong in the MCU. But Mjolnir does have some good abilities, powers that we've seen in the MCU before. Obviously, we've seen it in the first Thor, when they're fighting the Frost Giants, and we see him spin the Mjolnir around and just knock all the Frost Giants out of the way, which I thought was an amazing ability. I thought, obviously, he can use lightning. Obviously, he's the god of thunder. So, yeah, I think Mjolnir has to be in this list. There's many other weapons in the MCU as well, by the way. So these are only 5 that I picked out. There are loads of weapons and materials and stuff like that I could have put on this list, but I decided to put these 5. And I think Mjolnir, to kick us off, is a very strong weapon to go with. Now, the second one that I put on this list is another one of Thor weapons that we've seen recently, obviously, in Infinity War and Endgame, and it is Stormbreaker. Now, Stormbreaker is arguably probably more powerful than, well, actually it is more stronger than obviously Mjolnir. Obviously, we see in Infinity War when it held back all of the Infinity Stones, when it went into Thanos' chest, and obviously we know the rest is history when Thanos snapped. But Mjolnir is very strong. Obviously, the iconic scene when Thor lands on Wakanda from getting Stormbreaker from Groot making it with his hand or his arm with the tree, and then they needed the handle. But yeah, that's an iconic scene from Infinity War, and that's Stormbreaker has a good future as well. Obviously, we're going to see it in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Thor Love and Thunder, maybe more future projects. But obviously, what we've seen from Stormbreaker holding off the Infinity Stones in Infinity War, and a lot of the abilities we saw in Endgame, when obviously the fight with Thanos at the end, where it nearly got broke, but it didn't, which was lucky. But yeah. So I think Stormbreaker deserves to be on this list because of how powerful it is, and that's why I put it on this list. So the next weapon, or I kind of spoiled this earlier with the stones, but the next one I've got on the list is obviously the Infinity Stones. Now, we all know how strong the Infinity Stones are. Obviously, what Thanos did with them, wiped out half of of all life. Obviously, it's not just that though. The abilities of the Infinity Stones, let alone, obviously, Reality Stone is just an amazing stone. The Soul Stone doesn't really have a ability, but it's very hard to acquire. Obviously, you got to kill someone that you love. On Vormir, as we've seen in Infinity War and Endgame, which are two very sad scenes. But yeah, I think all the stones, obviously, Time Stone we've seen a lot in the MCU. All stones we have seen, well, other than maybe the Soul Stone, but all the other stones that we've had, the Power Stone, the Space Stone, all these stones, the Mind Stone, obviously, we've all seen these abilities before, or the stones abilities before, and they are all very powerful, and all combined, we obviously know how powerful they are. And with Thanos wielding them, I thought it was absolutely incredible. Obviously, in the battle in Infinity War that we saw with the Infinity Stones, he literally moved the whole planet with the Infinity Stones, and put it on Tony Stark, and just demolished him with that whole planet, which I thought was an amazing scene in Infinity War. But there's so much we can talk about with the Infinity Stones, which is why I think they are an amazing, obviously, weapon to have in the MCU. Everyone wants to have them, but obviously in Loki it makes them out that they're worthless. But in the main MCU timeline, we know that they're very powerful, and they are very hard to acquire as well. So that's why I have them on the list. So the next weapon we've got is Corvus Glaive's spear. Now, Corvus Glaive is part of the Dark Order and the Black Order, and he is obviously a child of Thanos, and his spear is very powerful. Now, his spear broke Vision's, got the Mind Stone out of Vision's head, which not many things could do. Even the Wakandan, like their own stuff, couldn't even take it out of his head. But obviously, Corvus Glaive's spear is so powerful. Obviously, we've seen him use it in Infinity War, Endgame as well. But obviously, no, there is an amazing ability about Corvus Glaive's spear, which is why it is so good in the MCU. And obviously, as we know, it is made out of a very strong material. It is made out of a very powerful material in the MCU. Obviously, it's Uru or Vibranium, one of the two, I'm pretty sure. But either way, they're both very powerful materials in the MCU, and that's why it's very hard to obviously break or whatever. But no, this is very strong. It has theories over the years after Infinity War that his spear obviously keeps him alive. If he has the spear near him, no matter what happens to him, his spear will keep him alive. Obviously, we've seen in Infinity War there was theories going around that he survived because of his spear. Now, I think that's an amazing ability, and I think that obviously what it did to most of that we saw in Infinity War, and obviously when we saw him in Endgame as well at the end, I thought that was an amazing scene with him as well, and I thought showing how strong his spear was good as well, which is why I have his spear on here, because it's just overpowered. Now, the last I've got on this list is Thanos' double-edged sword. Now, we saw how powerful this is. It literally broke Captain America's shield, vibranium shield. Obviously very powerful, by the way. And obviously Thanos' sword is made out of the same material as, a powerful material than Captain America's shield, which is why it broke it, obviously. And I'm pretty sure it was Uru or something like that Thanos' double-edged sword was made out of. But we saw a lot of fights with that sword. Obviously, the end of Endgame is the most iconic one, because that's obviously the only time we saw it. But did see it a lot in that scene. Obviously, it did break, but obviously, as we know, it was still very strong in the scenes that we saw it in. It was a good weapon for Thanos to obviously have, and I thought that it did some damage on the Avengers, and it did obviously show that it deserves to be on a list of powerful weapons in the MCU. Now, that's why I have it on there. I think the battles we saw it in, very powerful. And yeah, that's why I have that on the list. Now, if you obviously I didn't have loads of weapons on this list. I only have 5. If you think there's more, put the ones that you think should be in this list, or more that we should have added down in the comments. Tell us which weapons you like in the MCU. And yeah, there will be more uploads on the channel. They won't probably be consistent, but there will be more uploads, obviously. Obviously, as this channel is new. If you do enjoy this video, please like, subscribe. I hope you had a good day, and goodbye.